Hi, I'm Cameron Wallace. Welcome to the show today. We have a great guest for you, and she's going to be talking about her business, Empower You Motivational Business and Personal Coaching, something that I think everybody can help. Julia Searle is with us.
Hi there, everyone.
Hi, Julia.
Thank you for having me on the show.
It's a panic to have you on the show. It's just more fun than one human being should be allowed to have.
I'm not sure my work is fun, but yeah.
Well, they say if you pick something you love to do, then you never work a day in your life.
That is true, actually, and I do, when I'm working with clients and saying to them, what are you doing? Or when they're looking at starting a business, what do you want to do? And they're all serious about it. I'm then saying to them, well, it's got to be fun.
Yeah.
Because if you don't enjoy it, if you're not passionate, it's not going to work.
Yeah, people do have this idea of, well, if I'm going to be self-employed, then I don't have to answer to anyone except me. And then they end up going, a lot of the times, into a business that was just like what they were doing, and they're not really crazy about it. So if they can't believe in their business, then how can anybody else?
It's so true. And they fall into this trap by thinking that self-employment will lead them to freedom, and actually it just pens them in like their employed job, because they're just working constantly in it to build it up. And then what happens is they get trapped and depressed and all sorts of other things.
Now, as the founder of Empower You,
Yeah.
it's motivational business and personal coaching. So a lot of what we just said comes into play with that, is helping people, if they're self-employed, believe in themselves a little more. Is that part of it?
Yeah, what happens is sometimes when I've been out and networking with other business people, you come across somebody that isn't quite sure of themselves, and then they will end up sort of talking to me about how to build up their confidence. It's been quite shocking sometimes. You'll meet a business owner and they've got quite a large concern. I'm thinking of a PR company that I worked with before, and the owner and managing director of this company, he had no self-confidence. He found it really uncomfortable to sell himself to other businesses, and he's running this PR agency. And I was quite taken aback, but we were working on, how to build his business up, how he needed to present himself and come across with confidence. And we worked probably a couple of years actually on that. I'm not saying that everyone needs that long time to sort of develop themselves, but sometimes it is a matter of trying to get them focused and confident and happy within themselves with what they're doing.
I think, public relations to an extent is part of the creative community, and I can personally attest to being a creative. I find it intimidating to do that sales side of things. So I think it's kind of more common amongst the creative community.
Yeah, it's because that whole thing in your head about selling yourself, selling your business, selling something that's very personal to you, being creative as well as when you're an artist, you've created this beautiful painting and you don't want any criticism.
Yeah.
So you're not going to put yourself out there to face criticism, because you feel like what's going to happen is it'll just destroy you and it'll destroy your business. And
that's like most artists become more popular after they're dead.
Yeah.
Which, if you're running a business, that's not the way you want it. You want to be you want to have the success while you're living and can enjoy it.
Absolutely. So what tends to happen is unless the person can do that stuff and work on themselves and work on the whole framework of the business, how people perceive them, take away all that fear of failure, fear of not being good enough and being fake, that they're not going to be able to create this very successful business, because they've actually got to really be this person rather than pretend.
Now, there are kind of three elements to your business. There's the business coaching, which can be broken into the kind kind of the self-employed person that we've kind of been talking about, but also people that work for a big business,
Yeah.
both on the management side and the employee side. And then there's the personal coaching. So let's talk about the context of working with bigger firms, and what's your role with that?
Okay, so bigger companies, you're always dealing with people, so that's never changing. It's always people, but obviously the types of industries and size of organisations does mean you have to take a totally different approach. So for one instance, I worked with a very large international baggage handlers, and when I went in there, I was working with maybe 2 of the senior management team, and again there was complete chaos right from the top right through to the bottom, with the way that the processes, with the way that the communication, and also with the senior management, the way they came across with the staff. So there was quite a lot of work for me to do. I worked with that baggage handlers probably for about 3 years maybe, but what happened is I worked with, first of all, with those 2 managements, senior management, worked on their development of their roles, really turned it around, got them communicating at different levels with their staff, looking at how to develop the staff, looking at who were the talent. I then was introduced to their other managers, so like the second tier down from them, worked with the managers within that, helped them to feel confident with what their role, knew exactly what they needed to do, how they needed to develop it, relationships, building that idea of being the best that they could be within their roles, and then communicating that down to their teams, which were hundreds of people. And it's a really hard thing to do, but we actually turned that baggage handlers, specifically at Gatwick, around to the point where these senior managers went on and did much bigger things with their careers within the organisation.
That's excellent. So that's how you work kind of at the corporate level. What about, and we've touched on this already, what about the self-employed or small business owner?
So the small business owner is always, depending on how long the business is running, they're always trying to find new business to try and build the business. But a lot of the time, it's like having a bucket with a hole in it. You're turning on the tap, and the customers, everything is falling right through the bottom, because what they're doing is, by focusing on future customers, they're not keeping the current customers happy. They're not thinking on how to build up that value, trust with their clients, and therefore they're always running and reactive. And what I do is I take them out of the business and make them look at the whole business structure, at where they really want, what they want the business for, why did they go into that business in the beginning, what sort of income are they really looking to make from that business. And that's about making them profitable. So another one of my clients is a manufacturer. He was in a partnership before. The partnership fell apart. We worked out to take over that business. He had probably about 5 or 6 staff. Now he's got 30.
Wow.
I've been working with him now about, I don't know, about 6 years or so, but the company now is turning over millions. It was turning over maybe 100,000 when we started work, but yeah, it's doing so well. But we had to shift him in from that tiny small business mindset to this business that wants to reach out globally and has a good communication with staff and structure, and with clients, customers, suppliers. And so they've really got this presence in their market now. It's fantastic.
Nice.
Watching them grow.
congratulations on that. It's a
Well,
big success.
Absolutely, but working together, they had to have an open mind towards what they were doing.
Do you ever get any pushback from people that say, I'm not doing that? Especially if it's a more corporate situation where you're brought in by management and you get the employee saying, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I had a really funny, it wasn't funny at the time, but I had a funny situation where the finance director of an IT company, and I'd been instructed to come into the company. It was really to benefit all the team, you know, everyone. It was about the company saying to them, we value you, so we're going to get her in to work with you to really develop everything that you want within your role, so you know what you want and can start really enjoying it. But he came into this meeting room with me with a bright red face, full of anger, you know, and I'm thinking, is this man going to punch me? And I said to him, you know, what's the problem? I can see in your face, you're very angry, you're very red. And he said, I don't want to work with you. And I said, well, that's okay, because I don't want to work with you either. You've got, you know, a lot of things going on with yourself. You're not open. You're obviously frustrated with things with the company, so you're very unhappy. It's not going to work. So you need to go out the door, you need to shut the door after you, and you need to really think about whether this is the right company for you. And after that, I mean, he put in a complaint, and then, you know, probably about 3 to 6 months down the line, he tried to sue the company and everything, but they were so good with him, so good. But he didn't try and sue because of me, but just he was an angry person that didn't fit in with that company. He really didn't have a good ethos towards his work. He was bringing everyone's motivation down, very negative, and then he left. And sometimes that's how it's got to be.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of the medical situation. Sometimes you have to sever a limb to save a life.
That's a good way of putting it. I'm not sure I want to think
a little more
about
graphic. A little more graphic than we probably needed to be. But that's where my mind goes. Now let's talk about the personal coaching.
Yeah.
Now it's becoming more and more popular, but it always, to me, sounded so Californian. You know, I've got a life coach or a personal coach. But it's not like that anymore. It really helps people.
It really helps. And the issue with, I would say, a lot of people in the UK is that it's, even though it's been going now for quite some time and it's come over from America, so it's, you know, an English mentality is, oh, you know, I'm too reserved to look at silly things like that. But actually, you know, what happens is I've been out and, you know, at a bar, or I've been out in different contexts, and I've been getting into a conversation with an absolute stranger. And I found out that they're very unhappy in their marriage, or they're very unhappy in their job, or they're just generally very unhappy because of their childhood. And before long, we're having this session in this bar or hotel or wherever I've met them, and I'm thinking, you know, we need to take this out of this place, and, you know, you need to get help. If you want me to help you, I will, and there's my card. And it's come about more like that, because once someone really focuses on what's making them very unhappy, and actually that there is a way out of this unhappiness, and that by working on themselves and working with somebody like myself who is pretty tough on them, you know, I don't let them get away with things. That,
knowing you a little bit, you can be brutal. But it helps sometimes, because your friends will offer friendly critiques, and I think you tend to kind of take them with a grain of salt and think, yeah, I'll take that under advisement, but you know, whatever. But when you've got somebody who is more analytical and just looks at the problem and tries to fix the problem, that's a whole lot different.
Yeah, definitely, and that's exactly how it is. It's having that person on the outside that is like a sounding board to you, really. But because they're not your friend, they can tell you how it really is. And I've always been really good at that, especially in ex-relationships. But you know, it's looking at it from a constructive point of view rather than trying to destroy them and make them feel unhappy with life or anything, because I would never want that. I want them to come away from our sessions feeling like that there was a puzzle and their life was all bits and pieces of this puzzle, and it was all in a bit of a mess, but gradually over time we've put the puzzle back together and we've made a clear framework of this puzzle that really makes sense, and they're so happy, and all the pieces are now fitting perfectly, and then they're happy to take this puzzle of their life and look at it and do, you know, extremely fantastic things with themselves as a result of that.
Does that almost, I mean, it almost sounds like you're almost doing what potentially a psychologist could do, is disassembling somebody's issues and putting them back together so they work properly.
Yeah.
But it's not.
No, it's not, because, I mean, I admire psychologists. I really do. I admire psychiatrists, and I have actually worked with one as a client, which was quite interesting. But there is a real...
That to me would be like a game of chess.
He was just an incredible person, really incredible, but very complex. But with psychology, it's a fantastic subject, and it does fit with what I do. But I've not qualified as a psychologist. A psychologist is somebody that will sit down and work with the issues, but they're not necessarily setting goals or, you know, pushing them and motivating them to get to these goals, as I do within coaching and the development side. You know, mine's more of a, you know, let's take this stuff and let's make it more positive and progressive in a way that your life is sort of getting on. But a psychologist is there to really help you with those pieces.
Dig deep.
But sort of get you to that point of feeling okay in yourself, but not going to look at where you need to take that, you know, for like career or
how do you apply that to the
relationships.
practicalities of life? Do you find that in, I guess, both in business and personal coaching, you find people are more broken today? Do you find that?
Yeah, you know,
and now with the COVID thing, where people are coming out of being at home for 3 months, they've got to adjust to maybe going back into the office or workplace again, coping with people again, taking transit again, and there's a lot of issues at play.
Yeah, I mean, this pandemic is just come out of the blue. A lot of people have been very frightened because of what the media has done with it, and you know, that's another story. But definitely this idea that, one, they've been in isolation, so they've really not had that contact, and it's then about building themselves back in, and it sounds really silly, but it's building themselves back into being sociable. But it's also the fact that a lot of people are losing their jobs because the way that companies have changed now, they're making people redundant. That idea of being redundant or being made, you know...
Well, just the fear of it, that it could happen, is scary.
Absolutely. And so, you know, they're trying to hide and trying to sort of keep under the radar so they keep their job. And there's a lot of panic with it. And these people are, you know, out there and they're fearful of what's going to happen next. And it is a very scary thing. And the companies, you know, it's all changing.
And it's not just the business world. I saw an article today that Ellie Goulding, the singer, can't even imagine being back on stage again.
Yeah, that's...
And for artists, you know, where you've been told you can't perform, and the idea of putting yourself, especially because artists are very, for the most part, they're extroverted introverts. So having to, they've reclaimed the whole introvert thing, and now they have to move back out of that again. and not knowing when you're even going to be able to do that.
Absolutely. So when you've got to think that you're going to be having to stand up in front of an extremely large audience like that, I mean, that in itself takes a totally different mindset.
Yeah.
You've got to get over that fear of all those people looking at you. But when you've taken yourself out of it, and because you've had that mindset before, and you've now got this new mindset of doing stuff very insular for yourself, and then having to get yourself back out there again, it's like almost like having a breakdown, I should think, for them to do that, because this is it. You're confronted with this thing that you'd worked so hard to get to in the first place, come out of. Now you got straight back in again. It is quite crazy, and I do feel for them.
So with the relevant situation of things trying to gear up back here in the UK and around the world, that's something you can help people through, is coping with getting back to work, getting back to the office, getting back into commuting, the routine of things.
Definitely. The whole, whatever the fears are, whatever the things are that are playing in their head and stopping them from being able to sort of cross that line, and particularly with this whole environment now, definitely it's a great time to be addressing stuff like that and then working through it with them, because a lot of this stuff is actually in your head. Right. It's not actually out there in terms of, not the whole pandemic thing is out there, but the whole fear thing of losing your job, the whole fear thing around going back on that train and maybe getting something, that's something that's got to be worked on from internally so that you can then cross that bridge. Excellent.
I think you've got a lot to offer people. Julia Searle, Empower You, motivational business and personal coaching. How can people get a hold of you?
They can call me. My work number is 01342 770583, or they can email me on julia@empoweryou with the letter u.co.uk, or they can check out the website, which is www.empoweryou.co.uk.
And we'll have those right now up on the screen here so you can see them. Thank you for inviting us into your office today and spending some time with us so we can get to know what your business is all about.
Yeah, well, thank you for this. I mean, this for me is just having this sort of interview and really explaining about what I do, because it is so hard with what I do to explain it to other business people or people that need my services in particular. This is just a fantastic opportunity to do that as well. Thank you.
We're happy to be here. I'm Cameron Wallace. Thank you for watching. We'll see you another time.
Thank you.